If you're a dog parent, you've probably been there. You come home from work to find a prized possession chewed to bits. Maybe it's your favorite pair of new shoes, or the wooden legs of your furniture, or even the walls of your house. Either way, it's frustrating, it's expensive, and it has a name: destructive chewing. So, how do you stop a dog from chewing on your stuff? Like it or not, chewing comes naturally to your four-legged friend. Wolves, dogs' ancestors, chewed on bones, sticks, and other materials in the wild, and those instincts remain in their domesticated brethren. Dogs use their mouths like we use our hands, explains dog trainer and author Victoria Shada. They're an essential tool for exploring and interacting with their world. But that doesn't mean you need to resign yourself to years of mangled footwear and bite-marked hallways. Whether you want to get your dog to stop chewing on your furniture, your shoes, or anything else in your home, it's important to appease this natural instinct. Veterinarians and trainers say the first step to solving your dog's destructive chewing is understanding what's driving your dog to chew, and designing a solution to match. Why do dogs chew? Destructive chewing is not a one-size-fits-all problem, so let's look at the possible reasons a dog might chew. Teething. When it comes to teething, puppies are just like human babies, says dog trainer Erith Bloom, CPDT-KSA, CDBC, who owns the sophisticated dog training company in Los Angeles, California. When they're anywhere between 3 months to 7 or 8 months of age, their teeth are coming in and their gums are sore, she says. Dogs seek out the comfort of chewing on something, just like a human baby likes to put her mouth on something. It helps them deal with the pain. Even puppies who aren't technically teething may display teething-esque behavior, Bloom adds. In younger puppies, you see a variation of something you see in human children. Puppies put their mouths on everything. It's their way of exploring the world, she explains. It's not necessarily teething in the sense that their gums are sore, but it's still a developmental stage. How can you tell the difference? When their gums are sore, puppies tend to choose harder things, the wood of the furniture, baseboards, things like that, because it gives them more relief, Bloom says. BarrierFrustration. Have you ever noticed that your dog behaves differently when they're behind a fence? That's classic BarrierFrustration, says Bloom. The term BarrierFrustration is typically used to refer to situations where a dog overreacts in a way he normally wouldn't, except that there's a barrier between him and something else, she explains. The typical scenario is the dog behind a fence. When another dog walks by on the sidewalk, the dog behind the fence becomes this ferocious, fierce-seeming animal. But if the same two dogs met with no fence between them, there'd be no aggressive behavior at all. BarrierFrustration is sometimes called barrier aggression, but it doesn't always start out that way, Bloom says. They're frustrated that they can't get to the other side, and they display aggressive-seeming behavior, but sometimes they just want to say hello, she says. No matter what your dog wants on the other side of the fence, however, chewing is a common tactic to try to get there. They're thinking, how am I going to get around this barrier? Bloom says, and sometimes they'll tear at it with their teeth in the process of trying to get around it. Constantly hungry. Some dogs are very hungry, often due to medications, and will chew and even consume items that may taste like food, says Liz Stilo, DVM, Dic B, Chief of Service for the University of California Davis Veterinary Medical Teaching Hospital. Some are soothed by chewing or sucking on soft items. Compulsive behavior issues. A compulsive behavior called pica, in which a dog eats inedible objects like dirt, clay, and soap, also may be to blame, says Dana Ebka, an animal behavior counselor at the ASPCA in New York. Serious health conditions. Chewing is a normal activity for dogs, but sometimes it's tied to a more serious condition. On rare occasions, a medical issue is to blame, says Zenith Sining, DVM, DABP, Canine/Feline, a clinical assistant professor of small animal clinical sciences at the University of Tennessee College of Veterinary Medicine in Knoxville, Tennessee. Some of these conditions include dental issues, oral masses, neurologic disease, or disease resulting in extreme hunger, he says. Some dogs with stomach or intestinal problems also can be driven to lick or chew items, Dr. Stilo says. Behavioral issues. While medical issues, hunger, and pica are sometimes to blame. Destructive chewing is mostly caused by behavioral issues like fear, stress, and separation anxiety, Driving says. Some dogs become panicked when parents leave, so they attempt to break out of the house, which is why you may come home to find your window frames, doors, and child-proof gates destroyed, Dr. Stilo says. Boredom, from lack of exercise or mental stimulation, also may play a part, as can changes in the dog's routine, says Robin Bennett, CPDT-CA certified professional dog trainer in Stafford, Virginia. Chewing can become a kind of stress relief, an activity that they do when they're bored or a little anxious, adds Bloom. Just as a human being might bite his or her nails, chewing becomes a thing they do when they're under stress. In a wild state, most animals spend a large part of their day in the quest for food, explains Dr. Roger Mugford, animal psychologist and founder of the Animal Behavior Centre in Surrey, England. It is not surprising, therefore, that many domesticated pet animals who have their food provided for them become bored and frustrated with little or no way of filling their days. In addition to changes to a dog's routine, changes to a dog's home or environment can inspire destructive chewing. Say you've just moved. It's stressful for us, and it's stressful for our dogs. They don't understand what's going on. They're in a new environment, with new smells, new sights, new sounds. All of those things can increase their baseline agitation, Bloom says. They're looking for ways to work off all this additional stress, and chewing is one of the places where that stress ends up being expressed.